Time to take a look at the week in Canadian politics, beginning with Justin Trudeau's trip to China and all of the happenings in Ottawa. Joining us now, political commentator Michael Geoghegan. Michael, thank you very much for taking the time.
Thanks for having me.
He's off to China. How important is this trip?
Very important. China is on its way to becoming the #1 global economy. There's a lot of issues related in that region, including what's happening with North Korea. And last but not least, we have a Chinese-Canadian couple that are being held by the Chinese government. There's a lot of pressure on Trudeau to see if he can get the Chinese to release them.
Do you think he really makes a highlight of human rights?
Well, I think it'll be a nuanced highlight. Obviously, there's concerns about way certain groups, Tibetans, Falun Gong, et cetera, have been treated by the Chinese government. But also they'll be talking about, trade deals, what's happening with various trade negotiations and the like. And Chinese will also be, putting out their wish list and against a backdrop where, the China is ascendant and the United States seems to be immersed in problems largely of its own doing. So it's part of a historic pivoting that Canada is doing, towards China in terms of its economic future.
As he's over there trying to drum up more trade, what do you make of what's been going on in the House of Commons this week with calls for Bill Morneau to step down?
Well, yeah, it's certainly a situation where there's political blood in the water, and both the NDP and the Conservatives have been taking full advantage of that. It's also a juxtaposition where we've seen CRA crack down in some cases. Many perceived it unfairly, and so there was a lot of umbrage that's been built up amongst the Canadian public, and then you have issues with regards to when he sold shares in his company, the failure to put it in a blind trust. All these things have certainly gotten under the skin of Canadians and have been a golden opportunity for the opposition parties to flail the government.
This week Canada also said that it's going to host a meeting regarding North Korea involving foreign ministers. What do you think Canada's role in that is?
Well, it's because we're one of the few Western countries that has had consistent diplomatic relations with Cuba. Cuba is one of the only countries that has diplomatic relations with North Korea. So it's actually given us a key link where we're able to help communicate on behalf of the West and via Cuba and perhaps China towards North Korea. The other aspect to this is the United States has made it clear, if there's a nuclear missile attack from North Korea headed towards North America, they're under no obligation to protect Canadians or Canadian cities. Their obligation is to try and protect American cities. So, it certainly raised the stakes in terms of what Canada has on the table in terms of ensuring we don't have some kind of regional or nuclear war.
Donald Trump has tried to put some pressure on China to do something about North Korea. Do you think the Prime Minister brings that up as well when he's there?
I think it'll be more of a how can we facilitate some meaningful exchange of information without the saber rattling, and see if we can get to a position where both sides are able to save face, and we can avoid a conflict that at the very least would be disastrous for the Korean Peninsula, but perhaps could be disastrous for many other adjoining countries as well.
Joining us from Victoria, as always, Michael Geoghegan. Michael, thank you very much. Have a good weekend.
Thank you. You too.